Good
Good
morning.
morning. Good morning.
How are you today?
I'm doing really good. Really good. I forced myself to walk this morning, even though I was like, oh, I don't want to walk. I was like, this is the best for you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I've actually had some busy mornings this week and haven't gotten my workout in, but got to do that. It
Yeah.
and I feel so much better when I'm working out anyway,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway,
So, welcome back to Coaching Conversations. I'm Lourdes Slafer.
and I'm Maria Sabio.
Thanks so much for joining us. Today, we're getting real about something powerful you might not be fully using, and it's understanding people, really understanding them.
Yeah, this is a really good one because have you ever wondered why people act the way they do? And so I'm going to refer back to Marcus Aurelius because he really gives us powerful advice. Carefully consider their command centers. What are their dislikes and likes? And that's really just, a fancy way of saying, hey, what's really driving this person? Or consider, what happened to them. We want to unpack this together.
Yeah. So, what does it mean to understand someone? Here's the thing: we often judge without understanding what's beneath the surface. But understanding someone's command center means knowing what motivates them, their fears, their hopes, what truly matters to them. Dr. Judith Orloff emphasizes that empathy involves deeply sensing and recognizing someone else's inner world. So ask yourself, when you're frustrated with someone, are you seeing their true motivations? Are you understanding them? Right?
Right, right. Because when you understand someone's motivations, their behavior suddenly makes sense because, we might not understand why people do certain things, but it makes sense to them what they're doing. And if we can just connect, be empathetic, then we can understand a little bit about why they're doing what they're doing. And it's not excusable, in most cases, maybe it is, but at least we go from judgment to understanding. And there's neuroscience of empathy. And because empathy isn't just emotional, it's biological because our emotions are biological. And as far as the neuroscience, our brains literally mirror other feelings and actions. And neuroscientist Dr. Tanya Singer, she discovered mirror neurons that activate not only when we experience the emotions, but also when we see other people experiencing these emotions. That's why we're moved emotionally when we see someone crying, whether it's in person or if it's on a TV show that we're watching. We are able to connect with them emotionally.
Yeah. I mean, our brains are wired to feel with others, it's contagious, right? And so, this natural empathy can either connect you deeply or exhaust you, depending on how you manage it. So, how do you use this neuroscience practically? You intentionally tune into others' feelings without getting overwhelmed. And that's the challenge for a lot of people because they take a deep dive in another person's pool of emotions. And what's required is the ability to stay in your own center. That's emotional mastery, that ability to connect without being engulfed. And this is something that I myself have struggled with a lot, because I can kind of get, I have to correct, because I used to do this a lot more frequently. But my practices have allowed me to kind of stay in my center more despite what might be going on, the turmoil in another person. But it used to be where, someone's emotions would kind of just wash over me, and I
Mm-hmm.
swept up, right, in their story, in their emotions, in what they were feeling and going through. And it really was, destabilizing. It crippling would be too strong a word, but
Okay.
like it hampers you, because if you can't stay in your own center, if you are going to like adopt other people's turmoil, that whether it's anger, frustration, disappointment, fear, that's really contagious. Then you're a passenger in their car. You're no longer driving your own car, because
Mm-hmm.
when you're able to have that emotional mastery, then you're in charge. You're the driver of your own behaviors, as opposed to what other people are doing and feeling and expressing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I really like what you're saying, because when you deeply understand people, your relationships, they transform, because you're no longer enmeshed into their emotions. And that will shift many relationships, because you're no longer, bonding at their level. You're bonding at a new level that allows you to be centered. And the benefit is, you're less reactive, you're more compassionate, and you're infinitely clearer in communication. Empathy, it's not just nice, it's essential for personal and societal well-being. And I really like what you said, the two things, when you are enmeshed in somebody else's emotions, you're a passenger in their car. And what we need to do, it's like what you said, excuse me, it's what Lourdes said, the ability to connect without being engulfed.
Yeah, when you can learn to stay in your own center, like stay in your own lane. If inner peace and calm and stability are important to you, cultivating that on a regular basis allows you to bring that into the interaction when there's someone who's experiencing like high emotions, right?
Hmm.
Um, think about the conflicts in your life, right? Would they shift if you stopped reacting and started deeply understanding the other person on the other side without getting overrun by the emotion, right? So
Right.
empathy.
Yeah, no,
Go.
I just interject here. I think that when we're empathetic, um, and stay centered, I think that you actually are helping the other person get through the emotion that they're experiencing, because you've stayed centered. So you're a greater asset to them at that point. You help them get through it. But when you're empathizing with them, you're taking that deep dive, like you said, into this, you know, chaos. And what you really want to do when you want to help somebody is help them get out of the chaos. And you can't help them get out of the chaos if you get engulfed in their chaos, because emotions are chaotic, or can be.
Yeah, absolutely. And so yeah, to your point, if you can bring a stabilizing force into the conversation, into the interaction, then yes, you can be an asset. You can help the other person see clearly through the current situation or struggle, right? But ultimately, empathy doesn't make you weak, it makes you powerful, along with being able to stay in your center. Empathy, reduces stress and enhances emotional intelligence, creating healthier relationships and greater emotional resilience.
Mhm.
So let's make this practical, right?
Absolutely. So, this is your basic daily toolkit to become more empathetic, to have that, that muscle exercised. First, active listening, right? Actually listen without forming responses in your head. Feel what they're sharing. Really feel what they're sharing, because sometimes their emotions don't actually convey with the words that they're saying. So they may be saying something, but emotionally you can see that there's a different thing or something happening. And then pause and reflect before responding. Ask yourself, what's motivating this person's behavior? And then take a perspective shift. Imagine their background, going back to that question, what happened to them? Or what is their background? What is their day to day stress? And what insight does that give you? I'm past this, but before, and I think that many of us go through that, where we judge our parents. And when we take a step back and reflect, and I personally think, what was, my mother as a young mother of many children, and then being that age, remembering what I was like when she had young kids, and the stressors that she must have had, and the difference between what I know and maybe perhaps she didn't know, or the support that I was given that perhaps she wasn't given. And so when we look back, especially with our parents, if we can look back and say, well, what were their resources? What kind of support did they have? What was their background? And look at that from a objective view, your perspective really starts to change. Especially with your parents, especially if you have any resentments with your parents, to look at what their position was and how old they were and what resources they may have had, and that'll definitely shift your perspective. And obviously you can use that today with people in your life.
Yeah, that is really really great sage advice, Maria, because when we're able to let go of the resentments, and usually a lot of, I don't think it's uncommon for children to have some level of resentment towards their parents, right?
Right.
But when we can shift our perspective and, look at it through the lens of what were they going through? What were the circumstances? What were the struggles? What were the obstacles? And what were their resources, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
um, we can let go of those resentments and create greater understanding within our relationship with them. And this is, whether they are alive or not, right?
Oh,
Having
absolutely.
having a greater understanding will shift things in yourself and allow you to put things down in a way that is really healing. But let's continue with the toolkit. Another is express understanding. Genuinely say, I can see why you feel that way, and validate the other person's experience without judgment. And then there's empathy journaling. At the end of the day, reflect on your interactions. Ask yourself, did I understand the other person's motivations? Just having that thought, just looking forward to that thought is going to transform your interactions during the day, because you're going to be looking for your ability to do that. So, you know, the greatest transformation possible here is profound connection and peace. When you understand others deeply, life becomes far less stressful. And the surprising insight is that often our judgments say more about us than about the person we're judging. So empathy brings clarity and personal growth.
You know, that's such great advice, you know. Ultimately what people truly want, and you know, ultimately what we really want is authentic connection, to feel understood, to be seen. um you know, empathy can be your bridge to this connection. And as we close, just I want to share this powerful quote from Brene Brown. Empathy fuels connection, and sympathy drives disconnection. And I just want to put that back up for you. Um, let me put you back here, Lou. But you know, how will you feel connection today? Let us know below, and you know, really, we'd love to hear from you.
Yes. Thank you for being with us. Keep connecting, keep understanding. Until next time.